Welcome to Podcast Marketing Secrets, the place for entrepreneurs, coaches, and CEOs who are looking to grow their business with a podcast, become a key person of influence in their industry, and get their ideal clients to come to them, also known as attraction marketing. I'm your host, Al Morenton. My guest today is Colin Sanburg. Colin is a multi-business owner and founder of FinElevate. This MBA-led strategic finance firm helps businesses owners use their numbers to make money rather than simply better categorizing their expenses. As CEO and owner of manufacturing, distribution, and service businesses, he developed a passion for demystifying small business finance and supporting fellow entrepreneurs in achieving their dreams. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, your business seems super fascinating, at least to me. So is there something like that happened along your business or entrepreneurial journey that attracted you towards finances and accounting?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first business was really kind of a turnaround project. I was very green, didn't know anything about business, but the minute I took a look at the books, I said, this can't be right. And so, that was really an eye opener for me as a young guy, just trying to figure out business and learn, and realizing that, this company had a lot of financial problems. And so I became CFO of that company, took it over later as CEO. And along the way, it wasn't just because I happened to be passionate about the numbers. It was a necessity to survive that I figure out the numbers. And so that was really what, started me down this path. And then later, I would say, as, my entrepreneur network grew and I knew more people, realizing how few of them really had a passion for their numbers. And some of them didn't even have a good understanding of their numbers. Just led me to really want to work with other entrepreneurs and help out in this way.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's did you have a background in that in school or anything like that?
No, I always joke that, when you're in math class, let's say in high school, and pop quiz comes out, 95% of the class groans and wants to hide under their desk. And the other 5% of us, kind of perk up and think, okay, this is my moment. I was always just naturally good with math and really didn't pursue it to super high levels of math. But all of the basics of like math logic always kind of resonated with me, about percentages and, fractions and just the interplay between the numbers. And so when I got into business, and I love every part of business, to be clear, not just the numbers. I love it all, but that part really kind of drew me in because it just made logical sense. And it wasn't, big, complicated calculus or trigonometry. It was just in the weeds, like understanding the basics of math and are we making money or are we not?
That's awesome. Yeah. And and I know from personal experience and having being in different masterminds and whatever, and the financial part of business is the most overlooked. And it's almost like you have to learn a new language or something. At least to
Yep.
an owner or founder, and and it could be its own animal that just takes you away from actually making the money and stuff. So you're the FinElevate. It sounds like a necessary evil almost for people.
Yeah. And that's exactly how we approach it is, to your point, it's the most often overlooked because without sales, you don't survive at all. And without being able to figure out the operations and your deliverable, you also won't survive, right? Your reputation, your ability to get reorders. But in a very early stage, some businesses are able to get by without really understanding the finance side of things. And as they grow, that becomes this kind of monster that eventually comes looking for them. And, that's really where we help out businesses is just, helping with that side of it and advising them, making sure that they understand, how to look at the numbers. And to your point, it is a little bit of a different language. I would advise every entrepreneur, you're not a real entrepreneur if you don't know your numbers. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's intended to be the challenge that it is to, step up. This is one of the major areas of your business. And, you can't just skate by and hide from it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's awesome. So How did you come up with, using the MBAs, for the numbers?
Yeah, so I was a pretty rare breed in that I went to an MBA program as an entrepreneur, as someone who's already an owner of a small business. In the executive MBA program that I went through, which was the top 20 executive MBA program at the time. Hopefully it still is. But when I went there, it was big company people. This was like that necessary step that they had to take to hopefully break into the upper executive ranks for their gigantic Fortune 500 companies. And so the way they looked at business was very different. They had this one tiny sliver of the business that they were responsible for. They had never really worked with a P&L or understood the implications of some of the more company-wide decisions. But for me in a small business, that was what I was doing every day. And so that was why I really wanted to take on my MBA program. Was I wanted to go and learn what the big companies were doing and figure out how it could relate back to a small environment. And so that's really what I feel like I did. And what made me excited about that was it gave me kind of a level of professionalism. And then as I took that on to small business, it just exposed even further, like, okay, there are so many big gaps in the financial side of small businesses. Got to figure out a way to address them.
Right on. That's awesome. So you deal more with like small business, medium business?
Yeah, I would say that our typical clients are between 1 and 10 million in revenue. So they're kind of that small, emerging, mid-sized business, I would say.
Right on. So when somebody's uh, like what stage of business should people be at, when they seek you out?
Well, I think really it depends on, how fast you're growing. It depends on the nature, excuse me. Sorry. It depends on the nature of their business. But, I would say that really as you start to grow, as you start to seek out the right people on your team, just like you need the right people to help you grow your sales department, just like you need the right people to help you with your operations, you need to have that finance have a seat at the table. If that's not you or someone on your team, then I would highly recommend that you find someone. It doesn't have to be me, but find someone that can help fulfill that role, because your business will not ultimately get you where you want to go with two sides of a three-legged stool, right?
Right on. Awesome. So just asking for some people out there that might be just barely starting out, like brand new to business, never did a business before, whatever.
Yep.
But would you recommend, like, for them, because they're they're like, eyes wide open kind of thing, and you don't know where to spend your money a lot of times? Would you recommend, like, if you're like starting out at zero, like at bare minimum, like get like at least like a part-time bookkeeper or something, and then get some traction, and then that's when you started getting traction to seek you out? That kind of
Yeah,
a
and
thing.
I think that's probably fair. And really, if you're just starting out, I mean, as long as you're recording your expenses properly, talk to the CPA you plan on having them do your taxes. You don't have to
Mhm.
have super complicated books, especially if you're filing on a cash basis with your taxes. This can be basically almost like part of your personal business in a way. I would recommend for everyone, get a real legal entity, do it the right way.
Mhm.
But you don't have to get super complicated right at the beginning. You need to focus on getting some sales, recording the transactions that are happening, making a note for what they were that you spent money on. But it doesn't have to be super complicated. But as you start to grow, as you start to have traction with that, just like you have to step up the game in all the other areas of your business. And one of the first things I recommend to everybody is, there are some good business finance books that are out there for small businesses that are not as torturous as a textbook like you would think they are. And so just really look into the books that are out there. Read something from Keith Cunningham, look up some of the Greg Crabtree books. There are some good books out there that will help you have a financial perspective, even if you don't have a financial background.
That's awesome. That's good info, and thank you for those book recommendations. So, but yeah. So that's really cool, and it sort of reminds me of like a mentor that I had a while back, like probably about 10, 15 years ago, and I was trying to get like a fancy CRM, because CRMs were like just coming up back then,
Yep.
and I was like, should I get this or that or whatever, and I it was I didn't have, it was like a high value, but small amount of clients. Like, how many clients do you have? Like, I have like 38, and they're like, you could do that on a whiteboard or an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need
Yep.
like, don't worry about all that. So,
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a perfect way to put it, right? Is as you're, as you scale beyond that, where you can't keep it all straight, you couldn't fit it on a whiteboard. Your Excel spreadsheet starts getting too complicated. That's when you really need help, right? But to your point, I mean, and I think you learn a ton of those lessons doing it on a whiteboard, doing it on an Excel spreadsheet, really figuring out what value you would get out of that more complex system.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what do you mean by like you help business owners use their numbers to make money rather than simply better categorizing their expenses?
Yeah. So, I'll tell you real quick, we have a 3-step process when we're working with a client. And the first thing is understand their goal, because I can't help you get to where I don't understand we're going. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the number one thing, is work with you to understand
Awesome.
the goal. Yeah. So the goal for most business owners from a financial standpoint is to grow their business, to become more profitable, to improve their cash flow, or to exit their business. Right. And the exit could be hiring somebody. It could be selling the business. It could be, turning it over to the next generation. But depending on which of those 4 goals you want, we need to understand that so we can actually help you. Then the next thing we do is we have what we call the Fin score, which is basically like a report card for your business from a financial standpoint. So it's a 0 to 100 scale, and it goes across 20 different areas. And so with that scorecard, with that report card in hand, we now know what your Fin score is, where you're strong, where you're weak. And that allows us to say, okay, we know where your goal is. We know where you are today. The next step is pretty obvious. And we have a playbook that we've put together from some of the books I mentioned, some of the stuff I've come up with. And it's really just intended to be a best practices list. And it's 450 plus items of different things you could potentially do to improve the financial side of your business. So don't get overwhelmed. We don't need to focus on 450. We need to know what your goal is. We need to know where you are today with your Fin score. And then really the next 2 or 3 plays in the playbook are pretty obvious from that point. And so that's really how we approach working with clients, is we want to get into the heart of what are the plays that would actually move the needle for you. And then we help clients do that. So we don't just give you a big list of here's 20 things you could do. We get in and actually help get the things done.
That's awesome. And it's really, really cool that you have it like systemized like that. It's like more efficient, you get to your goals quicker, and that there's like something that the person could look forward to, that they're
Yep.
there, and they could be along with you in the process. So, but so you have like a team that sort of helps the company, and that's better than them hiring like one financial person and spending a ton of money and having all the responsibilities behind that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're far less than if you hired a CFO. And the challenge I see with small business, we're all trying to save money. So everybody looks at hiring a low-level person and hoping they can get high-level work out of them. We know that's not realistic. And hey, there's nothing wrong with frontline help, and everybody starts somewhere in their career. We were all that low-level, low price labor at one point or another. So there's nothing wrong with getting help on that front. It's just not realistic that they're going to know what to do to actually help your business. Then on the other side of the spectrum, people go hire what I don't really love the term, but they'll hire this like a fractional CFO type. The reality is, in small business, very rarely do you need that caliber of help. If maybe you're selling the company, you're doing some sort of merger, you're doing something really complicated, maybe. But in reality, the fixing a business from a financial standpoint is just, it's a grind, because there's a lot of things that need to be done, and they need to be done daily, weekly, monthly. And so that's really where we help, is like, we're kind of that middle ground of like, we have a playbook that a CFO would put in place, but we actually have the help to get it done. And that's the way we approach helping the client.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I don't know you, like you're a multi-business owner and stuff like that. So like from a business owner standpoint, like nuts and bolts or services or whatever, how, I mean, the finances, and money is, obviously the lifeblood, and it's super important, for your business. But how often should a owner look at the financials, like daily, weekly?
Yeah, I believe you should take a look at the cash daily. I think you should look at the rest of the numbers on a weekly, but you need to get it to where you're not, just cracking open the books and trying to search around and figure out what it all means. You need a more systematic way of looking at it. But once you have that, once you know what are your KPI, what are the couple things you're really looking at, then I think glancing at it weekly and then really doing more of a deep dive on a monthly basis is what I would recommend as the best practice.
Right on. And you help people along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of what we do is number one, help them identify what those, what their industry specific, business specific KPI should be. And then how are they going to track that? How are we going to get it aligned where the data just automatically collects? That's one thing with the FinScore and that system. We actually put a custom dashboard into the business that the client has access to. And that's going to tell them not only their FinScore, but all the other metrics. And again, we tell them, look, there's 1,000 potential metrics. Don't look at 1,000 things. It's going to drive yourself crazy. Figure out the 3 to 5 that really drive your business, and let's focus 100% of our energy on making those things work.
That's awesome. That's cool, and it's cool to have like someone to fall back on, but actually that helps you along with that. Because I remember when I was a youngster, like the technology wasn't as advanced as it is now, but there was like some software for, like for finances or whatever, and I remember, I get these spreadsheets or these little reports, PDFs or whatever, and I would like, okay, this is a bunch of numbers or whatever, but what, and I could sort of like read and follow, but what does this all mean, and why is this one important, and which one should I look at? Those were a bunch of questions that people have especially when they're first starting out. But even people that have some pretty seasoned businesses, their finances are a mess,
Yeah. And it's totally natural, right? We all go through that same process when we first become acquainted with the finances. You look at the P&L or the balance sheet, you look at all the rows, it's almost overwhelming because there's so many different levels of information, and we get kind of lost in the details. And as we help clients, part of what we like to do is just, again, simplify. Like, don't look at everything. Because to your point, at first it's fascinating and you go, wow, there's so much information here. This is really cool. And then you think, well, I've got some questions. How can I answer them with this information? And then when that doesn't become readily available, a lot of people kind of give up and they just stop looking, or they just say, hey, I don't know if I'm making money or not, but I know if I have cash in the bank. Well, even if you're a cash-based business in terms of the way you file your taxes, that is not a safe way to live, to just say I either have cash in the bank or I don't. We need to know you're making money every time you do work. And because the last thing you want to do, and I know this from experience, is scale up an unprofitable business. I mean, that was a huge part of the problem with the business I did the turnaround on when I first started my career, was that the volume of work we were doing wasn't making money. A small portion of the work we were doing actually made money. And it wasn't until I dove into the numbers and really asked that question that the truth became clear.
Yeah, that's so important. I was just talking about someone with that earlier, how to make a business actually profitable, and, keeping the, expenses down, preferably below what everybody else is paying. And, so you could, all of this, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, and like having somebody that's knows your business and like understands your goals, all that kind of stuff, and took the time for that, like almost like an extension of the business, and you could have like almost like a little mini mastermind going on to help make it more successful. And it's cool that you have like you have multiple businesses, as well, so you understand the entrepreneurial journey.
Very much. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's much different than the corporate, like the thing, like you were saying, like you were different than the other MBA students, right? Back in the day.
And interestingly, as I kept contact with my business school, one of the things they asked me to do was mentor, which I love mentoring, love working with people along that journey. That's been a huge game changer in my life, is having the right mentors. But as I mentored the people they asked me to mentor, a lot of them were going that corporate path, and I finally realized, like, I just don't know how to help you. I mean, frankly, I've done entrepreneurship my entire career. I can't pretend to know what it's like to be in that corporate environment and have to play the politics and do that route. Entrepreneurship is so much more just kind of raw and real and a little more in your face. And I love that about it. It's just very different animal. And to your point, that's one of the things that I think we add value with our clients is, I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, I'm a business owner, and I'm that guy who will walk up. If I go to a sandwich shop and I have a bad experience, I'll walk up to the counter and say, you know what, that's not it. Like, I've been here before. This is what the experience I just had. And I don't try to do it to be rude. I do it to be honest. And I do it because if I owned that sandwich shop, I would want someone to walk up to me and say it.
Yeah,
so that's the way I approach business. And I do the same thing with our clients. It's like, I'm not going to do you any favors just telling you what you want to hear, that everything's great and it's going to be even better tomorrow. I have to help you by telling you, like, hey, this part of the business isn't making money, or you're paying over market over here. And that's okay if that's your choice, but I want you to have that choice, and I want you to really realize what's happening. And so that's a huge part of the way we built our service, was having, like you said, a systemized way to help people, and then approach it as if we were an owner of that business. Like, what would we want to know? How would we want to be communicated with? And that's the way we approach business.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. And and for the people that want to go to that corporate route, I always call the golden handcuffs and all that kind of stuff. It is a completely different mindset. I mean, you could make good money and all the kind of stuff with like you said, the politics and everything. I've always considered myself like unemployable, and that's that's why I'm an entrepreneur kind of thing. But yeah, I like the grittiness as well. Do you have a specific type of business? Being a business owner, do you have a specific type of business that you enjoy, or think that is easier or a better path to go, like product or service or something else?
Yeah, so I do. And I'll tell you, because I've had different types of businesses, still own different types of businesses. The thing I'm really obsessed with that I think everyone should look at is, you need replication within your business. Now, that sounds like a big word, but really what I'm saying is you need something that's like recurring revenue, right? There's a reason why everything in this world is now software as a service, and it's a subscription model. And it's not because that's just easier. It's because it's inherently better. It's better for the business. And if they're providing you value, it's better for you not to have to constantly make that choice again, not to have to constantly go seek that out again. And so I know we've all been subscription to death with all the little things that, are, and now I find it really humorous. Now there's entire services designed to try and help people shed some of those subscriptions. But if you have a business where that fits, if you have a business model where, automating repeat orders is an option, that is the best type of business. And then I'll take it a step further. It's the same thing is true for the way you're paid. So if you are currently, chasing money in your business, there is a better way. You need to have an agreement with your client that either says, when I'm done with my work, I have the right to charge your card. Whatever it is, there needs to be a way for you to just automate that and make that happen on automatic, because those are beyond low value. Those are almost counterproductive activities to have to chase money that you've already earned, to have to call back up your clients and ask them again if they'd like to order. And so it doesn't fit every business model, but I would challenge people to think about your business in terms of like the range of potential business models. Make sure you're at the top of that range in everything from, how efficient and automated your labor side is. And I don't mean get rid of all your people. I mean, empower them with the right tools, give them access to some of the AI and tools that are out there now that are making everybody more efficient, do a better job, faster, easier. And so look at your business through that lens and ask, like, are you at the high end of the range on all those different elements? And I think if you do, the businesses that do that are the businesses that make a lot of money and are very successful.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I'm a huge believer in, recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, all that. I come from a fitness and wellness background. I own gyms from 87 to 2014. And the main reason I owned the gym was because of the monthly recurring revenue,
Yep.
And that wasn't a big thing back in like 1987, because the computers weren't even a thing, really. They were just coming out, and like the internet wasn't what it is. So but my dad was in insurance, and I was a fitness freak. So and he had like that monthly recurring, and then I saw the gym people, and I'm like, yeah, that's for me. So for sure that monthly recurring thing, and it's amazing how many different businesses have worked that in to their business, from food places, the haircuts,
car washes.
Yeah. Even BMW or what company that they're doing like a monthly fee for the warmer for their seat, like $9 a month or something,
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy, but having that to fall back on, like having a set amount of money, no matter what it is, to fall back on, that you're getting at the first of the month. You're not having to recreate the wheel every month. So I agree with you with that.
Yeah, and I think it ultimately builds a stronger business. So it's not just that it's more profitable. And I know that sometimes the client or customer side of that equation is like, oh man, one more subscription. I think it's a little egregious with the seat warmers. That's a little wild. But for most businesses, it helps everyone to have a healthier business. And so, like you said, being able to count on that revenue means that I can invest more stably in the team, in the resources necessary to deliver a better experience. So it's a win for everyone, as long as I'm not charging you for seat warmers on the car you already bought that already has seat warmers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's obviously ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a step too far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and getting back to when you start working with people, what you do at the beginning and asking about their goals and what the outcome for their business, the direction they want, it's almost like in fitness and wellness, and like saying, like the first question that most people don't ask, but that you should ask is, what does success look like to you? Like, what are your goals? What's the, like if we work together, what is success going to look like with you? So that's like you just having that just make me shows that you understand business and business owners.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yep.
So yeah. Is there any recommendation you would have for somebody starting a business like in 2024 kind of a thing, as we head into that, as opposed to how it was back in the day? Is it any different, or do you have any advice on that?
Yeah. So I would say, one of the first things is, from a financial standpoint, at least, think about your business model. What are you selling? How scalable is it? And therefore, how sustainable is it in terms of, are you able to make money on every deal? And what happens to some businesses are they've got, some sort of a built-in flaw in the way that their model's constructed. And so it's like the deck is stacked against them from day one. And that could be, as an example, maybe you even have a recurring subscription type model, but the upfront costs are so heavy and you're not charging the client for those costs. And so the onboarding, the upfront, the setup, whatever you want to call it, it costs you more than what they pay you in the first month. And then you have to pay to acquire clients. Well, what happens is basically you're building a machine that as you grow, it eats your cash. And, that maybe the first you only bring on a couple clients, you stabilize, you keep them for 2-3 months. Now they're cash positive and you take on a couple more clients and you think this is okay. It kind of tricks you into feeling like you're going to get away with that. The minute you add 5 clients in a single month, all of a sudden you're broke, right? You're out of cash. You may even be upside down. And so realizing that from the very beginning, I think is one of the most profound things you can do to set yourself up for success.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I've even been in that situation before. It was where I literally can't afford to bring on another client.
Yes. Yes. What a torturous spot to be, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's super awesome advice. So, let's see. How can people find out like more about you, or actually even get in contact with you if they're looking for those kind of services?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, it's Colin Sanburg. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also look up FinElevate, our website, www.finelevate.com, FinElevate. And, that's a great way. You can just schedule an appointment and reach out to us that way. We're a really, really easy, straightforward company to work with. In fact, we even do, whether you really are a prospect or not, we work with companies and we give what we call a deep dive 45. It's basically a 45-minute call. We'll hop on Zoom. We'll look at what are the low hanging fruit that you could be working on in your business right now. Like we just want to add as much value. We do that as much for putting good karma out in the world as anything else. We just want to help people, and we know that, that good karma comes back around somewhere down the road. But yeah, so I would say just reach out to me in one of those 2 places and let's get in touch. Whether you think you're a client or not, I love entrepreneurs. I love meeting and getting to know other people.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So we'll make sure to put the links to that in the show notes below. You do video and audio. There is one other question that I had. I forgot to ask you. Would you mind if I?
No, go for it. Let's do it.
Okay, so because you mentioned like being around more entrepreneurs and things like that, in the very, very beginning. So do you think that developing like connections with more entrepreneurs is really good, and do you believe in masterminds?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So we talked about, what to do if someone's starting brand new, and whether you're starting new or you've already been at this, I'm a huge believer in, developing a peer network, not from a, like, I'm going to sell to you standpoint, but just other people who understand what you're going through and can help advise you. And we're all in a different step in this same journey. And so the people who are a couple steps ahead of you, the people who are a couple steps behind you, all of that is amazingly beneficial to help you understand where you're at and where you're going. And so, yes, I'm a huge fan of mastermind groups. In fact, I think whether, you're in business yet or not, start a mastermind group. And it could be as simple as 2 friends or 3 friends who decide they're going to talk about this every so often. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to have a name. Just start talking with people who are on the same journey and want to get to some of the same places you want to get to. And it's amazing what that does for your confidence, for your ability to present your ideas, for your ability to, communicate with people about where you want to go. It's just life-changing. And it's something I'm really fortunate I did very early in my career.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah, well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing all those insights with us. It's a ton of them to take in, but I've been curious about like that, that financial side. So I was really excited to have you on. Like I said, we'll be sure to include all the links below in the show notes.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much for having me on. It was fun.
Awesome. So that concludes this episode of Podcast Marketing Secrets. This is Al Morenton signing off. I hope you have a successful day.